What's up, 49ers faithful? Jason and Jordan back from day 6 of training camp today. A lot to get into, a lot of things that I'm sure that you guys want to hear about, and we'll be able to break it all down for you. First of all, Jordan, how are you, buddy?
I'm doing good. It was a fun day. First day of pads. Things got a little electric on the field today. It was a fun day.
Yeah, and there was a little bit of chippiness. Alex Mack and Javon Kinlaw. Javon Kinlaw didn't like the way Alex Mack was handling him. Alex Mack was really, really amazing today, and I think that Jordan could tell you a little bit more about that before I get into the camp notes. Before we get into what everybody's here for.
Yeah, I just thought that he immediately flashed. So the first play of 11 on 11s, he put Javon Kinlaw on his back, and Javon Kinlaw is 6'5", 330 pounds. And to put a human being that big on their back with the ease that Alex Mack did is not something that's just, oh, okay, it's easy, it happens. Like, that does not happen the way it did. The first 3 reps he had, he absolutely dominated. 2 were against Kinlaw, 1 was against Jones. He pancaked Kinlaw and Jones both multiple times. And he just looked. He's a very large human being himself. Like he's very wide up top too. Like, he's not the biggest guy per se, like height wise, but he's very stout, and I think that really helps his low center of gravity. And you could see the veteran savviness that he had too. There was a particular play where after because Mack was given the interior defensive line work for the majority of 11 on 11s, and then on a rep where Kinlaw finally beat him and he brushed past him, ripped through his right side. Mack allowed him to get a little bit past him, and he pushed down on his lower right hip. So on Mack's left side, it was it would have been both of their left hips. So Kinlaw was going to his left side, and he basically used his own momentum and leverage against him. And it's a perfect example of how this guy's brain is just as valuable as the size he brings. And all day there were plays where he was helping Laken Tomlinson and Daniel Brunskill on either side of him in pass protection if one of those guys were struggling a bit with their one-on-one reps. You could see, like, the line as a whole just felt like the most dominant unit on the field today. And Alex Mack holding down that center, I don't think I've seen that good a center play from the 49ers since the beginning of the 2019 season when Weston Richburg was still healthy. So it was very encouraging to see how much of an impact he's clearly had on that line as a whole.
Yeah, and something that kind of slipped through the cracks until Brad pointed it out while we were watching was him calling the protection, in the right direction. You could see him literally put his hand up, and move the protection the right way. It was a good pocket around Jimmy Garoppolo. So I think that as much as we talk about, center is important because you have to call everything out, man, this was an impressive move, and he had a great day today. So some notes before we get into everything else. D Ford in pads on 11 on 11s, installing the blitz packages is what we kind of saw in the beginning when the defense was coming out, showing a lot of people at the line, blitzing with Ebukam, and they were moving people around in that way. Webster opened up as the cornerback 2 today because there's injuries to Dante Johnson and Tim Harris, with Emmanuel Mosley still being on the COVID list. Richie James, Travis Benjamin, Mohamed Sanu, Brandon Ayuk were all on punts with River Craycraft as well too. Debo was not in pads today because of groin tightness, I believe is what they said. And Azeez Al-Shaair has a knee sprain, avoided a much larger injury, so he'll miss a few weeks, but it won't be as severe as how it felt yesterday when guys were on one knee. So some other stuff. Trey Sermon actually really looks good in the receiving game. I was very impressed with his route running, and he actually made some nice catches. Mostert had a really good rep against Dre Greenlaw, and Elijah Mitchell continues to be the best receiving back on his team, I think. And that's no slight at these other guys. It's just he looks different. And got a chance to chart Coach Shanahan as he was throwing some passes in. He had some passes behind some of his guys, so he's going to need to clean that up if there's going to be a quarterback competition with Kyle Shanahan. Jordan, anything else that you wanted to add in terms of what you saw today?
Yeah, I just saw it was nice to see, like I said, the chippiness that you could tell these guys were kind of waiting to get after it a little bit, hit each other a little bit, and I think that obviously it's still early, but it felt good to be reinforced with some of our previous thoughts over the last few days of camp. I thought Brandon Ayuk looked really good. One thing I will add, one of my favorite things so far in training camp has been watching the reps where Jason Verrett is in man coverage on Brandon Ayuk. And as good as Ayuk has been throughout camp, Verrett seems to just have his number. When those guys go head-to-head, Verrett's done a pretty good job holding him. And there was a play where Jimmy threw a ball probably 40, 45 yards down the left sideline. And Verrett had the bound. He had the inside leverage on Ayuk a little bit. Ayuk had to try to come back to the ball, and Verrett's technique was perfect. He blocked off his path to the ball while not doing so in a way that would have been flagged for PI. It was a great coverage. I don't want to say he clamped him, because if the ball was thrown a little bit farther upfield, I think Ayuk had enough to maybe make a play on it. But where it was as a 50-50 ball, Verrett had such good coverage on him that it just kind of reinforces the pattern of reps we've seen, where when those guys go head-to-head, Verrett just for whatever reason seems to have his number. So it's a very encouraging sign, because like I said, Ayuk's been fantastic, and we all know he's a very good wide receiver. So if Ayuk is being held like this by Verrett, it's only fair to assume that maybe there's a chance that Verrett's going to be the guy tasked with taking the assignment of DK Metcalf twice a year, DeAndre Hopkins twice a year, and being able to it's pretty hard to shut down those guys, but to just slow them down significantly would be a huge win for the 49ers defense.
Yeah, good point. And thanks, Gab, for saying that, Jalen Hurd's in the building with Jordan, because that's what I was going to talk about next. Jalen Hurd actually participated today in 11 on 11s, and he didn't look bad at all. He didn't have any targets, but he was in on 11 on 11s. And for the most part, on top of all of the things that we talked about, nobody else got injured. So that's another good sign. But everybody's here for the quarterbacks. So let's start with Trey. Let's just start with him. Yes, it is true. 13 of 13 until he missed the final pass of the day, which was actually, if I got it right, and I just want to make sure it was a deep shot to Richie James, which he kind of stopped on the route, but Lenore was the one who was on him, who actually is looking actually better out of all the rookies. Ambry Thomas is struggling right now, and Jordan can attest that he's struggling to keep up with guys, and it's tough because of that third round pick. Tony, thank you, man, for the donation. We appreciate the kind words and everything as well. But so here's what I found interesting. They go right back to the zone read. That's clearly something that they're going to be using. But there were more designed quarterback runs, powers. Even Brad pointed out while we were there, a counter, and they're chunk plays. They're chunk play after chunk play. Like the zone read can't be stopped. And Jordan, I'm going to pass it to Jordan here before we get into all the other passes and stuff. But Jordan, the ball fakes. The ball's there. It looks like it's in the belly, but he pulls it out so quickly and fast that by the time the defense figures out where it is, he's already by them. Talk a little bit more about ball fakes, because you were big on that when you were looking at his film coming out of NDSU.
Yeah, so when you look at quarterbacks, a lot of times people want to see big throws. They want to see them, running. Now there's all these mobile quarterbacks. There's a lot of small intricacies that go into playing that position. And when you're playing in an offense like Kyle Shanahan's, where you're going to be doing so much play action and so much of your success is based on showing a defense particular running play out of a particular set, and then being able to use that to sell the run one way and tuck the ball back and, bootleg to the other side, set up play action, deep shots downfield, all that good stuff. Trey Lance has an ability to sell that fake better than any quarterback I can remember in recent memory coming out of college, where really it's very hard and watching the All-22 film where I can slow it down, it's hard sometimes to discern which way he's going with it. I can only imagine how hard it is for the defense that's watching this happen in real time. And we've seen with these zone keepers and these read options, he's so good at selling the fact that he's going to while he has the ball in the belly of the back that's next to him, he's so good at selling the run with the running back that it's really hard for these teams, because they have to respect how good that running back room is, how good the offensive line is, how good of a play caller Kyle Shanahan is. If you sit on Lance, you just expect him to keep every time, you're going to get burned by Mostert and Sermon, Mitchell, and all of these guys that are maybe populating this really good running back room. So yeah, so it's not like the sexiest thing to talk about if you're evaluating QBs, but having the ability to sell that ball fake and then in turn use that with your own mobility. It's crazy that. And then Lance is really, really good at reading his blocks as a ball carrier. So he's very good. What that means is he's very good at identifying the holes to that he should be attacking, while also being patient enough to gauge his speed in a way that he can expect a block coming forward. Like let's say, we saw a play where he was running to the outside, and I believe I'm trying to remember who's playing right tackle. It was a second or third team right tackle, had D Ford on the outside, and D Ford was looking good, by the way, real quick. He was setting the edge very well on this play, and they were engaged in a block. And it was impressive how Lance, instead of going full speed and kind of trying to beat him to the edge where Ford would have had him wrapped up, in my opinion, he kind of kept it down a couple of gears, and he knows when to turn it up and when to slow it down. And he's very good at timing when he's going to hit those holes and wait for those blocks to develop. And that's something that you see in a lot of like elite running backs. You rarely see that in an elite quarterback. The only other quarterback I can think of who's really doing that right now at a high level in the NFL is Lamar Jackson, in my opinion, where he's really a guy that's sitting there that's just elite at letting his blocks develop. So regardless of who ends up starting for the team, expect to see Trey Lance utilized as a runner. I'm sure Kyle, even if Jimmy's starting, Kyle has some packages where he'll work Trey Lance in. But yeah, he looked great today with the ball in his hands.
Yep, absolutely. And Trent Sherfield really stood out today because you had to wonder who was going to step in and, ascend a little bit more with Deebo Samuel. But Trent Sherfield ran a little bit with the ones, ran with the twos, but he was targeted by Jimmy and Trey also. Real quick, I saw a question in here that I wanted to take from my guy Leo. So what makes you put Ambry in the struggling category? He's not winning his reps. Whenever there's a catch, it's usually Ambry Thomas in coverage, and that's no slight at him. It just is what it is. And yes, right now, and Jordan, if you could talk about it a little bit more if you want. It's not good right now, at least for him. Lenore is much further ahead of him, in my opinion.
I think he's just a guy who he didn't play stat out last season. He hasn't had significant snaps since 2019. So maybe it could just be a growing thing, like a growing pains thing. He hadn't, really had any significant reps with this team outside of OTAs. And I don't really put too much stock into that. So maybe he'll get better, but it's just an issue where he's getting beat off the line of scrimmage a lot. He's getting beat when he's trying to press guys. And I think that it's just a situation where there's other corners. Like Lenore looks far better, in my opinion. If the 49ers had a little bit more top-heavy corner depth, I think I would question Ambry's ability to make this final roster if he goes through camp playing the way he has the first week. But at the same time, too, it is the first week of camp, and it could be just, again, a situation where he's getting acclimated because he had some good tape at Michigan, but he also had a lot of concerning things, and I'm seeing a lot of those things replicated now. So I know the 49ers, I don't say it seems very much so like the 49ers are trying to get to a scheme where they're going to run a lot more man coverage and a lot more press man in particular. And Thomas was a guy who executed that at a high level in a big-time conference in the Big Ten. So, I'm not ready to give up on him yet, but I haven't been encouraged at all by his reps. I'll be completely honest.
Yeah, and cornerback is a concern right now because this is like the doomsday sort of scenario if Emmanuel Mosley can't go because they're relying on him for those CB2 snaps. And I understand, it's COVID. He'll be able to bounce back, it looks like, or hopefully. But yes, this was my concern. This is why I kind of wanted them to address it in free agency, bang the table for AJ Boye, Steven Nelson, those type of guys. And now you're kind of seeing it, Des Kirkpatrick he came in, left without a deal. Apparently they're working out BW Webb. So this is something they're concerned with as well. So don't take it from us. Take it from them. And I see people asking, Jimmy didn't throw any interceptions today. Okay. So I know that people want to know how Trey was throwing the ball. Listen, it was clear today what they were doing in their install was very short intermediate routes for everybody. Trey was quick, decisive, got the ball out. It was intermediate. Now, the only throw really down the field was that Sherfield throw on the run. That's the one that everybody wants to see. Fortunately, they do not let us record 11 on 11s, but that was something that's not in the bag for Jimmy, and I understand that that's something that everybody gets excited about. He did take one first-team rep, but Kyle Shanahan explained that it was a running play that he wanted to see the offensive line block for with Trey in there, because Trey, I believe a lot of what happened, because the running game was actually clicking today, I believe a lot of what happens is that because of Trey's running ability, it opens up lanes, and as Jordan alluded to, Mostert, those guys are going to blow by you if you're not on the zone read, if you're not watching the ball fake and everything. So before we keep going, I just want to say, if you guys are enjoying, please like the video, smash like. Make sure you subscribe to the channel because it'll help the channel out, get us views as well too, push the algorithm up. So so some outside the number throws for Trey, but in the beginning it was much of the zone read design runs that they were, and Trey can execute that. Some of them are chunk plays, some of them are just like 8 or 9, which there was never really any plays that were negative in any way. scramble off a play action. D Ford was on him and he still ran, like he got to the corner, but D Ford closed it off and made him step out of bounds. So D Ford did look good, exactly like how Jordan was saying, which is quite the reversal from, rumors of him retiring, rumors of him never being able to play again. And now, he's in pads and doesn't seem to be limited in any way. Nick Bosa, he was off to the side, so he didn't really participate in 11 on 11. So, everything was to the flat to Gallman, short to Dwelly. He avoided pressure, flat to Sanu. But that play, of him, running and throwing to Sherfield, that was the one that everybody's going to be talking about. Jordan, anything else that you want to touch on with Trey's performance today? Because, there is, and again, this isn't pro this person. The offense does seem to have a little bit more juice, and it is, again, mind you, against the twos, with the twos. But this offense does have a dynamic to it because of Trey's legs that is just not there with Jimmy Garoppolo. So is there anything else that you wanted to point out?
Yeah, and I don't want to – I know some people, I'm not going to read too much into each day, and I'm not going to flip-flop my opinions and stuff. If we're reporting day to day, so yesterday I said that at the time I didn't think that Trey really had done anything as a thrower that was so – objectively so much better than Jimmy that he would be he should be taking all the first team reps right now. I think that it's very obvious that Trey Lance is just a more natural thrower of the football. He has better arm talent. He has a stronger arm. They ran a lot of bootlegs with him today. So a lot of that, I've seen a couple things out there saying that he only was throwing short, check downs and flat reads. A lot of that stuff was built into the offense. That's where he's supposed to go. That's just either his primary or his secondary read is a lot of that stuff. And they're moving the pocket and getting a lot of that stuff is what he was asked to do. He wasn't just checking down because he wasn't taking shots or didn't want to throw downfield. And he looked really good doing it. He's very gifted throwing the ball on the run. Again, he tends to sail the ball a little bit sometimes. That's my biggest gripe with him is that he has a tendency to overthrow guys high. He misses high all the time. But on the flip side, Jimmy Garoppolo misses guys low and behind them all the time as well. So it's kind of, they're opposite ends of the spectrum, but they're both problems. So I would say today, I thought Trey Lance was a much better quarterback. I thought he looked much better. He was the best quarterback on the field by a significant margin. And again, this is just day to day. These things are going to change. You're going to have different results. But hopefully what ends up happening is we get a picture where it's a bit more consistent, where maybe Trey Lance strings 3 or 4 days in a row where he really does look like the guy. And again, my whole point yesterday was that I didn't think that he had just separated so clearly that, I saw that. Yeah, it's a little bit better. Thank you for asking. I appreciate it. Jason made sure that we had sunscreen today, so it was a much better day. But yeah, so I think ultimately at this point, Trey Lance, there's no other way to put it. We watched them both run. Trey is running with the second team, but to me, it's not about the players that are around them. It's about the ability that each guy possesses. And Trey Lance is just a guy where the rushing ability creates so many holes in the defense, his ability to throw on the run, his ability to fit balls into tighter windows, that it's just ultimately a matter of whenever Kyle feels comfortable handing the keys over. I'm not going to sit here and say that he's been so much better that he deserves to start right away. They need to just give him the first team reps. But I also will sit here and tell you that it's very apparent that it's not a matter of if, and this isn't any kind of competition. It's just really whenever Trey is ready and they feel comfortable handing it over, because he is so much more gifted. And I just think that there's no way you can ignore how much more explosive the offense looks when he's the one taking the reps versus Garoppolo.
Yeah, and you can tell the defense feels that pressure, and they're kind of on their heels, and that's, again, I believe D'Amico Ryans or it was one of the defensive players today was talking about the stress that it is with him on the field. Great with the ball fakes, was absolutely perfect in these intermediate areas. Yes, some of the balls were high, they came down their completions, but yes, man, everybody's gonna fawn over that throw as they should. When you hear the beat writers say that's a throw that they haven't seen, or was I think it was Dieter who said it was like a video game throw, something like that. Yeah, I mean, that's something to really get excited about. But, he looked calm into, like he knew what he was doing. He knew where he wanted to go with the ball, very sharp, decisive today. And the legs just take it, to a whole other level. So having said all of that on Trey, let's move over to Jimmy Garoppolo. So, I mean, I don't want this to come off as a slight, but Jimmy Garoppolo did Jimmy Garoppolo things today. Intermediate throws that, were kind of close to either being batted down. There was one to Jimmy Ward. It was actually a deep middle shot to Kittle, but Jimmy Ward was in there, got the PBU, and it was two guys converging. And, those are sometimes the throws that you see with Jimmy Garoppolo where it's just like, ooh, that's not me being subjective. That's a throw that or one or two or three that he'll make per game. And he's done that since he's been here. There's no really argument towards that. But, I'll say this, his first rep, he worked his progressions left to right, but juice fell out of his break and he, had to try to get it out of there quickly. And it was an incompletion. Another thing about Kyle Juszczyk, he had an amazing rep on one-on-ones with Fred Warner. I think you guys saw the 49ers posted that, actually. He needs to get more targets. He's so good as a route runner. Jordan, did you see any of that with Kyle Juszczyk?
Yeah, no, that developed right in front of us. It was a great play. I said something about how I thought that Elijah Mitchell was the best receiver out of the running back group. But if we're counting Kyle Juszczyk in that, it's not even close. The guy is just – he's one of a kind. I would like to see his usage go up a little bit more just because of all the various things he can do. But, yeah, he caught an incredible ball. I'm sure most of you guys have seen it. I'm pretty sure the 49ers team account posted it. That play developed and ended about 10 yards right in front of us. So it was just a prime example of how versatile this guy is running out of the backfield. One of my favorite plays was, I think it was Michael Kendricks, if I remember correctly, that game in Seattle in 2019. He ran a wheel route where you fake to the flat and you go up. In fact, I'll see if I can clip it. Game Pass has been kind of weird lately, but if I can clip it, I'll post it and I'll show a picture of the route. You basically sell a route to the flat running near the line of scrimmage, and then you turn and cut upfield up the sideline. And having a fullback that you can flank out wide into the slot and then run routes like that, it creates a nightmare for defenses, because when Kyle Juszczyk's on the field, generally he's going to be in the backfield, he's going to be lead blocking, and you have to respect the running game that the 49ers have. So you end up putting defenses out in their base personnel where they're going to have bigger guys for the most part. You're going to have 3 linebackers and 4 defensive backs rather than 2 and 5 defensive backs. And it ultimately opens up so many things in the throwing game. So, yeah, Juszczyk looked great. Warner looked great today, too. I think that was just an example of, hey, sometimes, that's the thing, is it's hard. You don't want to overreact to one rep here or there, because these guys are very good on both sides of the ball. So they're going to kind of, each have their moments. But, yeah, Juszczyk looked really good. And it was Sudfeld who threw that ball, I think. It was a pretty ball from Nate Sudfeld.
Nate Sudfeld was dropping dimes today. So as much as everybody gave me crap about not charting Sudfeld and Rosen, because I would rather spend my time probably looking at something else, but he actually was really good again today. It's clear that he's in the driver's seat for quarterback 3 at this point. So as far as other things that Jimmy did well, there was a comeback route that he threw that was really nice to Brandon Ayuk. Did he push off of Jason Verrett? Yeah, he the little subtle jab to get himself open, but the ball was right there on time to him. He threw play action to Kittle on the next one. Dre Greenlaw had a good run stop on the next play on Trey Sermon. And then there was, Jordan, I don't know if you remember this one. It's the third attempt on the second period of 11 on 11s. It was a throw that was a little bit over the middle, and it was behind Brandon Ayuk. But I would say that Brandon Ayuk still should have caught that, especially because Fred Warner was in. So what Jimmy did good there, I felt, was that he saw that, listen, no slight at Fred's all-pro Fred, but, you kind of expect your guy, Brandon Ayuk, to win, right, in that situation. So the throw was there. He just threw it behind him. But I thought that Ayuk still could have caught that. Do you remember that one?
Off the top of my head, no, I'll be honest.
No.
I was probably charting something in my notes, something like that.
Yep. But yeah, so that one, it's hard, right? When you post the raw numbers, that's why I like to give context, and I'm talking about, each rep, because if you post the numbers and you just say he went 5 for 8, oh, that's good. But you remember, you need the context of what happened. Okay, was it in the flat? Was it intermediate? Was it low? Was it a design screen? So posting the raw numbers isn't something I want to do. We want to make sure that we talk through each rep, and we tried to take notes as fast as we could, because the action was moving so quickly. I believe that the next one was a completion of Brandon Ayuk, but it could have been a sack. It probably should have been a sack. Obviously, they're not going to hit the quarterback, so they just let that go. And then DJ Jones tipped the pass at the line. That's going to get – but I'll tell you this. Jimmy Garoppolo checked out of the play to the correct read, and he went to get it out quickly, but DJ Jones just read his eyes and knocked the pass down. And then Trent Sherfield shows up again. Like I said, Jimmy Garoppolo, Trey Lance, they both targeted Trent Sherfield. He made the most of all of his opportunities today. River Craycraft outside. That it was outside the numbers to the left, but that one probably could have been a sack. And then the next play was just immediate pressure. Like it was like his last rep, I believe, or his 8th attempt in the second period. It was just immediate pressure. I think they just brought the house, and it was hard for him to do anything with that. So, Jordan, anything else to add on Jimmy Garoppolo? He did take a deep shot to Ayuk on his 10th attempt, but Jason Verrett was blanketing Ayuk on that one. And he actually had his final throw be a quick throw to against the blitz to George Kittle. Anything to say about Jimmy Garoppolo? Because I always like to give this context, so we don't just post raw numbers. We're not just saying, oh, he looks like this. Like everything needs all of that, and it's hard to just look at the raw numbers and say, yeah, you understand how he was playing today.
Yeah, I think the thing I would add, I mean, you pretty much touched most of what happened during practice. Again, I thought that Lance was the better quarterback today, but I will add, as happy as I was to hear about Lance studying his iPad and watching film as much as he does and praising him for the off-the-field work, I think Jimmy deserves the same credit, and he has spent the last 2 practices. He's been one of the last guys off the field after practice concluded. He hung around for about 20 minutes after practice today, working on his deep ball to Rivercraft was the one out catching the balls. And he was running sprints by himself after the end of practice. And, I know people will joke like, oh, he knows Lance is coming for his job, and they'll say all these things. And that's fine. There's plenty of guys who would feel pretty entitled I think it's his 8th year in the league now. He obviously was the guy who got that big $137 million contract. He's the incumbent starter, went to a Super Bowl, all those things. But it's nice to see that he's still displaying a certain level of hunger in regards to working on his craft, and that he realizes, hey, my last couple deep balls I threw in practice today weren't the best. Let me stay after and work on it. And I just think that he deserves to get the same praise we would heap on Lance. If Trey Lance was staying after practice and working on throws and doing these things, we would never hear the end of it. Which you should be excited about your players working like that. But again, I just think it's a situation of how long can he really hang? How long can he be a guy that's going to be a consistently just baseline average quarterback? Because the second he starts to falter, you're going to start to hear the cries for Lance, and the pressure might get there if the Niners start struggling a little bit. But I thought that he looked kind of like himself today. Nothing totally egregious. There weren't any throws that had me sitting there like what was he thinking? How did he do that? There also weren't any throws that really had me. The last couple of days he did have some throws. I thought he had the most impressive throws on Saturday and yesterday. Lance obviously did today with his throw to Sherfield, but. I just think that, it is what it is. We have to see how this plays out. Now that they're in pads, things are getting a little bit more serious. But, yeah, I think that's you pretty much touched on most of it. So.
Yeah, and there was some throws outside the numbers. I'm seeing people, ask that. There was one to River Craycraft that was really nice. I think it was to the left hash. But, again, that's a sack. It's hard to – see, that's the problem. Like, when we chart and we're putting up the attempts – how many of them are sacks, that would have normally happened? So that's why sometimes you see some variance, like if a beat writer's putting one number up, we're putting another number up. It depends on how you look at it, and that's why you don't really credit people with touchdowns. There was no red zone period today for either of them. Trey Lance completed all his passes, was great with the run, and that pass is the one that everybody's going to be talking about, the Trent Sherfield. Jimmy Garoppolo did what Jimmy Garoppolo does. He completed passes. He was quick getting the ball out, quick intermediate throws, executing the offense as far as, the checks at the line as well too. So I mean, there's not really much else to be said. It's not hating or anything like that, or it's just this is how they've been operating, and this is my fourth practice. Nothing's really changed. Jimmy Garoppolo hasn't really changed who he is. Maybe one practice session he's thrown the ball a little bit further downfield, but he wants to. He just generally wants to get the ball out quickly. But I'll say this: the offensive line. Which was such a huge concern last year, they did an amazing job today. There was many times where there was clean pockets where he was able to go through progressions and look, and that's something that's very encouraging. The first string line was very good. Alex Mack, we talked about, Mike Mcglinchey had some good reps, especially during Jimmy's time, because Jimmy is just a straight drop back passer. But, me saying one thing good about somebody else and trying to give context is not, in any way bashing the player. So Jimmy Garoppolo did what Jimmy Garoppolo does. He completed quick passes, intermediate range. That's just what it is. So, I mean, I guess what we can do is we can take a few questions. We could probably, because it's only 30 minutes, I feel like we kind of touched on everything. But, we'll stick around for maybe another 10 minutes if you guys have questions. And we'll we'll take them on any players that you guys have. Jordan, anything else? Did you?
I wanted to add just real quick. I just think ultimately, like I said, it's obvious. The 49ers gave up. They didn't trade. They mortgaged. I use the word mortgage because they flipped first this year. they mortgaged 3 years worth of first-round picks and another top 100 pick to move up to get Trey Lance. They clearly identified something they really liked about him. He's going to be much cheaper, and building a team around a quarterback on a rookie deal has been a proven method to get a team to a Super Bowl and to win Super Bowls. And if we take aside all that logic that you would apply to it anyway, and you simply just look at Jimmy and you just look at Lance and you watch these guys throw in person, Lance clearly just looks like the more talented quarterback. And I think that it gets misconstrued because people will say, oh, if he's the most talented quarterback, he should be starting right now. There still are some inconsistencies that he has as well, but the way the ball comes out of his hand, and the biggest thing for me is Trey Lance has not looked afraid to take chances at all during this camp. He has been rifling the ball all over the place, throwing into tight windows, pushing the ball 15, 20 yards downfield. His propensity to take risk has been much higher than Garoppolo's. And that's the thing that I think concerns me the most, is that I would be worried if Jimmy got into a space where he was worried to take chances downfield because he doesn't want to be in a spot where if he starts racking up turnovers or making throws that are turnover worthy, where he's worried for his job security as a result. And I think that's the biggest thing for me, is if Garoppolo can work on his consistently stringing together those impressive throws that he does have from time to time, if he can string a few of those in a row, while also being a little bit more aggressive. Because the biggest thing with Jimmy is if you watch in these camps, especially now that they have pads, the pockets are collapsing a little bit, it's getting more physical. He hesitates far too much for my liking. And I think that's the main difference between he and Lance right now. And that's what's concerning, is because Trey Lance hasn't played a single preseason game yet, and Jimmy's an 8-year veteran. And Lance, again, seems like a guy who's a lot more inclined to take risks. And as much as you don't want to be turning the ball over, I'd much rather have a quarterback that's willing to take those risks and take those shots downfield than one who seems hesitant to do so. And what we've seen, like that interception that everybody made a big deal out of that Jimmy threw on Saturday, I think it was, he double clutched, and you could see that he kind of hesitated. He double pumped the ball. He knew he had a window, but it seemed like he thought about it too much. And it's easy for me to say on the sideline while he's dealing with it in real time, but that kind of hesitation is what's been one of his biggest flaws over the last couple of seasons. So I just hope that he gets more aggressive is ultimately my point.
Agreed. And yes, Jalen Hurd did take part in 11 on 11s today. He just didn't get any targets. So he wasn't just working off on the side. He actually ran routes today, and he was actually in on 11 on 11. So he looked fine. I mean, he looked like a guy who didn't even look injured. No sort of limitation, anything like that, but he just wasn't targeted, so it's hard to see. But he looked good running his routes as well, too. Let me see. Let's take some questions real quick. So Michael Gallego's asking if we had to pick today, who's the slot receiver? I guess you mean the third receiver. I think right now it's Mohamed Sanu, but Trent Sherfield is really coming. I mean, today he had a really, really big day. He had a much bigger day than Sanu did, but he's the one who actually took advantage of the extra reps today with the first team, second team. Jordan, what would be your answer if you had to pick that?
Sanu, probably, just because he's a veteran. He's familiar with Shanahan's system. He's probably somebody they trust a little bit more given the workload he's had as an NFL receiver. If I had to guess right now, it would be Debo, Ayuk, Sanu, Sherfield, and probably Richie James. I imagine they'll keep 6. The 6th spot's kind of up for grabs. I'd say Kevin White and Rebecca Kraft are the front runners for that. But, I just don't see a way how it wouldn't be Sanu right now. But Trent Sherfield has looked phenomenal. And his role as a 4th wide receiver, return specialist, special teams gunner, he's going to have a place on this team. I would be absolutely shocked if he did not make the final roster.
Absolutely. So let me see. Let's take some other questions real quick. So Benjamin Roberts asks, what about Street and Givens? I'm expecting them to be on the up and up this year. Street has actually looked really good, and so has Givens. We've talked about it the last 2 episodes about this depth with this line and the good rotation as well too. But Jordan, talk to them about Street and Givens, man.
So Street and Givens have gotten some looks with the first team unit in the nickel package, where you're going to have more defensive backs. Generally, nickel's a package you're going to run when you're playing the pass. It's going to be 4 down linemen, 2 linebackers, 5 defensive backs. So we've seen, I think yesterday we saw Armstead and Bosa on the outside with Givens and Kinlaw on the interior. Givens and Street on the interior. I saw a couple looks where they had Ebukam and Bosa on the outside with those 2 on the inside. Givens has looked explosive. I thought he had a really impressive rep on Saturday where they ran a stunt with him where he basically, you had he was on the left side of the interior. The right side crashed in while he came around them to the backside. And, excuse me, he just looks like a guy that's going to be a key contributor on the team.
Yeah, right there. Yeah. No, I mean, and it's true. They again, the rotation on the inside, it's made for some interesting. It's made for some interesting lineups. Like even D Ford himself was actually lined up inside at portions. But yeah, it was. It's good to know that the depth is there. With this defensive line. So let me see. Let's take a few more questions and then we can get out of here because we got to write these articles. Ravi asks, what's going on with Hufanga? He's taking second team reps. He's always one of the first people out there every day. But he's a second teamer right now at this point. Tavon Wilson is taking over Kwaski's spot. So he's just not really running with the ones. He's been on second team defense, but not really too much to really sing home about. I mean, unless Jordan, what do you think about Hufanga?
I think that it's been very impressive. He's been one of the first guys out every day they've had practice, and I think that goes a long way. Special teams and depth would be his role at this point. He obviously has a long way to go to be a starting player, but he's hungry, and I really like that.
Absolutely. So, Gavin, does Mike Mcglinchey look like he's improved now he's in pads? Mcglinchey has some really good reps, and he looks massive. He looks a lot better. He does, and it's hard to it's pretty easy to see that. So I don't really have too much bad to say. D Ford, got in the backfield a little bit, but that's just more testament to how far along D Ford is. D Ford actually looks really good. Like I'm not even trying to, for somebody who I was very much in the camp of, I doubt, you're going to get anything from him. D Ford has been really good, and he's been playing, in 11 on 11s and in pads. Like there's not really much more you can. Him comes in and out of the lineup, because of those packages that he's involved in. But man, you really can't ask for anything more from D Ford at this point. And if you get what we think, is what this team can do, it'll be a lot of that'll be because of that. John, thank you again for the donation, bro. I really appreciate it, man. Hey, fellas, how do you feel about the safety position? Is Jefferson showing any potential? How about Jared Maiden? Thank you again for all of this and your hard work. I love that you address your notes to all of us. Yes, Tony Jefferson's not really getting too much burn at this point. It's hard to see him. He's with the second team, but he's not really getting much burn. And for the people that were asking about Lance's throw, I believe Jonas Griffith was on him, and I can't remember the safeties. The linebacker, he was out there. But it wasn't like it was somebody in coverage or anything like that. And Jared Maiden, yeah, I mean he's the one who is in that video of the Debo catch on the long pass from Trey. So people have kind of made their assumptions about him. He's been all right. Jordan, any thoughts on Tony Jefferson and Jared Maiden?
Maiden looks good. He definitely has good speed, sideline to sideline speed. Looks good in coverage. Jefferson's come along. I think they kind of eased him in as he's got to learn defensive install and learn. He's probably a little bit behind the players who are familiar with the system, obviously, but he's made some good plays as well. He's a guy that I think will definitely make the team just based on his veteran ability. The guy who's been the most impressive has been Tavon Wilson, in my opinion. He's been taking the first team reps in place of Jaquaski Tart, and I believe he will be the third safety if anything should happen to either of those two, or if they do run 3 safety looks with 5 defensive backs on the field. So, yeah, that would be my take probably. Jefferson, I think, will make the team. He'll come along as camp progresses. But Tavon Wilson has been the most impressive guy beyond Jimmy Ward, in my opinion, who's just – phenomenal. I can't say enough good things about Jimmy Ward, but beyond that, with the safeties, I would say Tavon Wilson has been the most impressive.
Yeah, agree with that for sure. And this question is, so did the offensive line play better with pads? Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and again, Alex Mack, there was a play in particular called protection. Something that is a lot of the reason that the offensive line struggled at times was the whole communication error. So yes, I mean, they have really looked a lot better. So I think it's 40 minutes. We've pretty much covered everything. Make sure that you guys like this video, subscribe to the channels, set up your notifications for when we go live. We will be back tomorrow, but tomorrow is going to be a little bit later. We are going to be Jordan and Brad will be joining Andrew and myself on Sprint Right Option Podcast. So that'll be later at night. It'll be a little bit of a change. So that'll be probably around 5:30 Pacific time, 8:30 Eastern time. So there won't be any midday stream, but we will be going live later. Jordan, what you want to before we get out of here, man?
No, just thank you guys for, supporting and, like Jason's channel. I know Jason's working really hard to pump content out, not just now, but always. And, we'll be back tomorrow, and I really appreciate it because I know we've been having a blast covering all this. So thanks, everybody, for tuning in.
Absolutely. Make sure you guys like this video. Make sure that you send it out to your other 49er fans, and make sure you subscribe to the channel. We appreciate all the support, all the nice things that people have been saying on Twitter. And this has just been a blast, and we're just having fun, just sharing our notes and showing what we've seen from camp. So for Jason, for Jordan, we'll see you tomorrow on Sprint Right Option, and make sure that you look out for Jordan's article on Niners Nation and my article that'll be coming out on 49ers Gold Mine in a little while. Just got to type it up. But, enjoy the rest of your day, guys, and get excited. Today was a lot of fun at practice. So have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.